Good morning, magandang umaga po. Ito ang programang Bawal ang Pikon. Get it straight with Daniel Razon. Hindi ko na ho patatagalin pa. Kasama po natin ngayon ang isa sa mga kilalang abogado sa ating bansa, Attorney Rose Beatrix Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Attorney, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Morning po. Have a seat, sir. Ay, ma'am. Kasi naalala ko bigla yung the woman with the balls. Well, let's get it straight. Kayo ba'y merong clearance na kailangan munang hingin bago kayo makapag-guest sa isang programang kagaya ng programa ko?
Hindi pa.
So, you are free naman to choose kung saan kayong pupuntang, kung anong paunlakan ninyo.
Opo, basta may oras.
So, wala namang nanghaharas sa inyo?
Meron naman. Hindi naman natin sinasabing wala.
So, maraming nanghaharas na sa inyo ngayon?
Oh, but mostly social media, text messages.
Well, I just received a message ngayon lang. Sabi sa akin dito, may vlog daw na lumabas sa inyo.
Yes.
Laban sa inyo tungkol dito sa National Commission for Culture and Arts.
Yes pa.
Na nagsasabi na you stole the Heritage Foundation an amount of 240,000 pesos. Ano bang ano to? Bakit ba meron bang katotohanan yan?
Wala pa.
Oh, so paano nangyari diyan?
Sometime a few years ago, I think it is 2009 or 2010, I had a law partner whom we had a falling out with. So he caused the blog, but it was based on half-truths and mostly lies. What is true is that I have been a consultant of the NCCA since 1998. I became a heritage lawyer in 2001 after training with UNITAR. I have not received a grant from the NCCA. Kasi nga, I'm with them, so you're not allowed to receive grants.
But you think this is one way or the other related sa kasong hawak ninyo ngayon?
I think that blog came out before pa. So it's
before
always,
pa. Okay.
but it was related to my being a spokesman of the IBP.
Okay.
When I became spokesman, there were other people who were aspiring for the post. And in that instance, they wanted to make sure that I would not get it. But I never even applied for that post. They had asked me to be spokesman. So that's what happened. I became spokesman, but the blog continued.
Ito kung ngayong hawak ninyong kaso, ilan ba ang hawak ninyong kaso na against dito sa mga Iglesia ni Cristo?
Well, there's one that they were the ones who filed. So
Sila yung nag-file
yes,
against kanino ho?
they filed against Miss Lottie Manalo Jimenez,
Okay.
Mr. Angel Manalo, and other occupants of number 36 Tandang Sora. There's an injunction suit against them to prevent them from having visitors.
So kayo ang nag-aabogado para doon sa mga...
For the residents.
Okay.
Which includes
Kasama sila Angel
Manalo
yung
siblings,
Manalo
yes.
siblings.
Yes, sir.
So pinapaalis yun, ma'am, ganun.
Not in so many words, because we've challenged the hierarchy of the Iglesia ni Cristo. Why aren't you just filing an ejectment suit? If you want to simply limit the activities, because you can't do that. Anybody who's legally occupying property retains their rights, particularly human rights.
Kanino ba yung property ho?
We're contesting the claim of ownership of the hierarchy of the Iglesia ni Cristo, because they were presenting documentary evidence, but the evidence are 9 different titles, which does not specifically describe the lot in which Miss Manalo and Miss Jimenez and her brother are residing in. So, because they have the burden of proof, that is not enough. They have to present us a title and then explain to us, or explain to us, why are you presenting 9 different titles and a surveyor from your own office instead of the surveyor from the Register of Deeds? So, since all of their documents are unofficial, and in fact, even the titles that they produce to us are, owner's copies, not the blue copy that the Register of Deeds gives out or the LRA gives out. So, in that instance, we don't feel that they've come up with their burden of proof. They're asking for an extraordinary measure of trying to prevent people from visiting. Even prisoners, even detention prisoners, even prisoners convicted by final judgment are allowed visitors under certain conditions. But in this case, the last time I visited, a lawyer came out and said, nobody is allowed to visit anyone in there, not even you. I said, I'm their counsel. Sabi niya, no, not even you. So it's coming to a head. But they were the ones who filed the case.
And that prohibition is based on the order from the hierarchy,
Yes, yes.
not even an order from the court.
No.
So wala pang ngayong...
There's no TRO eh. So the
Okay.
court will basically leave us to our own devices until an order emanates from the court.
So that's one of the cases that you're handling.
Yes.
So aside from that, are you also the counsel for Isaiah Samson?
Yes.
Okay.
In both cases, he has a libel suit against him, and then he filed a case for illegal detention with the DOJ.
So the one that you are handling is both pala,
Yes.
no? Libel and
Illegal detention.
yung libel ang nagdemanda sa kanya yung Iglesia ni Cristo.
Yes.
Yun namang siya naman ang dinimanda niya naman Iglesia ni Cristo ng
Yes, the sanggunian
so
of the Iglesia.
sanggunian itong
Yes,
idinimanda na ninyo.
Yes,
Kanina saan ho naka-file 'yon?
sa DOJ po.
Sa DOJ.
Apa.
So ano na ho ang estado ngayon noon?
Waiting pa rin po kami. We filed it in August, and it's now October, so we're still waiting. The last time we
Waiting
inquired...
po for what?
We're waiting for the hearings, actually. We made inquiries within a month after we filed, and they said that at the time Laila de Lima was still there, and she said that I've already ordered them to act on it because that is the limitation of her supervision over the prosecutor general. So according to the people in the prosecutor general's office, is that they are constituting a panel of prosecutors. So I said, okay, we will wait. The next time we inquired, we were told that not everybody who wanted to be in the panel of prosecutors. So according to them, they're having difficulty.
So ano ho ang remedy pagka ganon? Kasi it seems that it will be dragging that much kung sakaling ang magiging katwiran, walang gustong tumanggap, walang
Yes.
gustong meron ba kayong recourse na gagawin?
Well, their liabilities, of course, no? Because this is a delay in the services of the prosecutor general or the prosecution services. But we will be filing a motion to set for hearing, which is our remedy now. It becomes now
So you
a
haven't
burden.
done it
yet? Not yet, because we were making inquiries. We knew it would take some time because it almost always takes some time. But usually, the average time for constituting either a panel or appointing a prosecutor is about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So
And
we
how many
gave some
weeks have
leeway.
you waited already?
More than 8 weeks. It's already going on 12.
Okay.
So, but within the week, we'll be filing our motion to set for hearing. Just to give them the assurance that hindi naman, we're reasonable people. We understand, and our client is out of danger. But we also filed it as soon as we could so that our case would not prescribe or there would be no question about our client's sincerity. The ball is in their court.
What made you say that your client is already out of danger?
Well, at the time, because he had already left the central compound of the Iglesia ni Cristo. We're not saying he's completely out of danger. There are continuing threats, not just on his life, on his health, and on that of his family. So, but it's a lot less danger than when he was inside the compound.
Pero isa din yun sa mga nagiging question. Aside from Isaiah Samson, kasi hawak din ninyo itong kay
Lowell
Menorca.
Yes.
So ito lang ho ba yung lahat ng, o meron pa kayong ibang hawak na kaso bukod dito sa Manalo siblings, kay Isaiah Samson, kay Lowell Menorca?
A libel case of Mr. Del Roelio. Another minister also filed, there's a libel case against him, but his correspondents are the Philippine Daily Inquirer and one of
so
its columnists.
sinampahan
Yes.
din. Sila naman ang sinampahan din.
Yes.
So wala nang ibang yung like illegal detention cases. Meron pa ba kayong hawak?
We have potential ones, but we are not sure. We have to make sure. In the case of, let's say, Mr. Menorca and Mr. Samson, we had to make sure of our evidence before filing the case. We have heard that there are still some ministers that are detained in the compound, but we're unable to locate them, considering also how difficult it is not only to get inside the compound, but to get anybody inside to give us an information. It might take some time.
How did you get into this? Kayo ho ba'y pro bono o kayo ay merong kumuha sa inyo para magdepensa sa kanila talaga?
We were referred, actually. I was referred, and it was based on my work with the mutiny cases. Well, Captain Faldon and Major Aquino, at the time Captain Ginulbay. So it was based on that work that somebody came forward and said, I'm referring you to Mr. Isaiah Samson. At the time, I did not even know who Mr. Samson was because I had not followed the story. I'm taking an MA in UP, so I was kind of out of it. So when they came, I said, okay, let's hear the story. And it was so, how do we call this, bizarre, that we couldn't resist. Of course, they asked if it could be at minimal cost, and I said yes, minimal fees, because of the nature of the case. We can't take it on pro bono anymore because we have a lot of pro bono cases already.
Okay.
And there are ethical considerations. So, however, my partner and I, well, at the time we were in partners yet, discussed it, and we said, can we take this on? Sure, why not? So, minimal fees, we're not going to starve. So we took it on. It turns out that when we interviewed our client, because he's a really good man, and we couldn't resist. It was like two bad people fighting a cause for a good person. It seemed like a perfect balance.
Well, I have known you to be a fighter, ano?
Yes,
Na hindi naman kayo duwagin at hindi naman kayo atrasin. Pero do you think this case ay kakayanin ninyong panindigan? Are you not afraid that you're one way or the other, bumabangga kayo sa pader?
Sir, I think those are the best cases to take on.
Okay.
Not for the legal aspect, but more for the how can you resist fighting for something that is just and good, and the opportunity to do so. Plus, the people are extraordinarily good people. I'm not. I don't really practice any religion anymore. I'm more interested in culture and the Philippine animist beliefs. But, I like good people.
So, ito, pinaniniwalaan ninyo base sa salaysay ninyo at base sa nakuha ninyo mga salaysay din.
Yes.
Na talagang meron kayong solid evidence na maaaring ipresenta sa korte para patunayan ang inyong iniaakusa o iniaakusan ng inyong mga kliyente, to be exact, ay talagang mayroong nangyaring illegal detention?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In both cases, aside from witnesses, we have witnesses. We have not brought forth their names because of the possibility that they can be scared off, because it's not an easy thing. As you said, para kaming bumabangga sa pader. But nevertheless, it's important to try, and we have evidence, we have witnesses. Not only that, we're very sure of our case because we also know the level of evidence that is required. For instance, in a petition for the issuance of a writ of amparo, the Supreme Court has already acknowledged that these things happen in secret. That sometimes the only witness is the victim himself. And it comes down to the credibility of that victim. So we have very strong and unshakable belief that in the cases of Mr. Menorca and Mr. Samson, their credibility cannot be shaken.
Wala ba silang axe to grind against the administration of the INC?
Sir, even if they did, and in both cases we don't see any, even if they did, that doesn't justify legal detention. It doesn't justify any crime committed or any restraint of liberty. The church itself has a corrective measure.
Hindi ba papasok lang yan sa sinasabi nila na yan ay paraan ng pagkastigo sa kanilang mga miyembro?
At some point, when the detention exceeds that of a mere administrative sanction, the penal laws of the Philippines will come into play. And in this case, any restraint of liberty is what is prescribed in the revised penal code. So even if they claim that this is part of the tenets of their religion, the law will first be recognized. It must be satisfied. The provisions of the revised penal code will supersede any religious belief or faith. Otherwise, it's deleterious to the social order. Anybody can claim religious belief and then detain somebody, maybe torture, kill. It's not an excuse. The law will prevail.
So hindi ba kayo nagugulat doon sa mga sinasabing na ito ay paglabag sa separation of church and state?
Actually, that's my argument. That's the argument of our clients. We know that there are, for instance, when Mr. Menorca was moved, after we filed the petition for habeas corpus, his captors, the people who were holding him, went into a panic and decided to move him. So during that move to hide him from the court and to hide the fact of his illegal detention, he was accompanied by several police officers in cars, in marked vehicles of police vehicles. There's even a congressman who was supposedly witnessing the transfer. The hierarchy of the Iglesia endorsed him to a barangay chairman, obviously who knew these people very well and who obviously had some kind of benefit coming to him.
So hindi siya rescued?
He was rescued because the place that he was brought to not only was isolated, but is surrounded by people identified closely as bodyguards of the hierarchy.
But if he was turned over to the barangay people, how then can it be a rescue
No, sir,
operation?
he was endorsed, but that's a different thing. If he was turned over to the barangay and the barangay even held him, then that's still just transfer from one jailer to another. In this case, sir, he was surrounded. But he was surrounded, he was transferred from a smaller cell to a bigger one, which is like an entire subdivision. He knew that, in fact, during the transfer, there was a crowd. Suddenly, the crowd became thicker, and then there were people there who were openly hostile to him. And he was going to be surrounded by those people in the home that he was supposed to occupy. He and his family. They were afraid to even step out of the house.
Sa sinampan nyo doon sa DOJ, di ba kayo nakakaramdam ng hindi pangkaraniwan na parang merong pumipigil doon sa mismong nasa DOJ?
That's Mr. Samson's case.
Sa kaso ni Samson?
Siyempre, sir, hindi namin maiiwasan na mag-isip ng ganon. Pero,
so wala ba kayong
may
mga na-identify doon na mga gusto niyo ipa-inhibit or para wag makialam sa kaso?
So ngayon, sir, we use the inhibition sparingly. We'd like to give the public officials every opportunity to fulfill their duties. Pero may hangganan din siyempre yung pag-iintay namin. Ultimately, it will come down to liability. And in this case, the liability will first go to the highest official, the Prosecutor General. The public officers, the government office has to explain why it is going to be violating its own rules. They have 90 days to resolve a preliminary investigation. And we are now entering the third month. If they do not constitute a panel and they do not have reason for it, kumbaga, hindi siya reasonable, then everybody that the case passed through will be liable in one form or another, primarily administrative.
So ano maaaring nakikita nyo yung dahilan para ma-dismiss naman yung kaso ninyo, if in case? Kasi maaaring mabuo yung panel and then there and then, i-dismiss yung kaso ninyo.
Well, there are remedies naman. We can go to a higher court and petition for certiorari and question the discretion that was exercised in dismissing the case. But beyond that, as soon as we can, we will also start filing the administrative liabilities here. If they can't, can you imagine that they will delay a case and then delay it, and then later on suddenly dismiss it? I don't think the courts will look kindly to that kind of behavior.
Well, pupuntahan ko lang ho itong detalye kasi parang maraming nahihiwagaan excuse me, dun sa istorya ng itong pagkaka-rescue kay Ginoong Menorca.
Yes, sir.
Nag-umpisa ho ito na sinasabing dinukot siya mula sa Sorsogon. Tama ho ba yun?
Bulan, Sorsogon. Yes, sir.
Bulan, Sorsogon. Okay. Puntahan ko lang ho yung account na yun. Paano napunta ng Cavite, paano para siguro may paliwanag din ninyo sa amin. Before we continue with that, we'll pause for a break.